This episode of Basics is presented by The Singleton. The Singleton is an award-winning single malt that tastes great from the first sip. It's great neat, over iced, or mixed into a cocktail, perfect for someone who's new to Scotch. Today I'll be mixing it up in a bright and summery cocktail to accompany your favorite summer dishes, like pasta salad. Let's get down to basics. Alright, so we're finally edging in on picnic season. That means big bowls of macaroni soaked in mayonnaise. I'm both going to try to improve the classic mac salad and present two delicious variations. And since mayonnaise is indeed such a prevalent ingredient, our first upgrade is homemade mayo. This might seem like overkill, but trust me, it's way better than anything you've ever had out of a jar. First, we're cracking 2 whole eggs into a narrow container about the same width as the head of our immersion blender, along with 1 teaspoon of Dijon mustard, the juice of 1 lemon of average juiciness, about 2 tablespoons worth of freshly squeezed stuff, 1 clove of garlic cut into a few more blendable pieces, and a half teaspoon of kosher salt. We're starting by giving these guys a few pulses with the immersion blender until they're nice and smooth, then slowly and carefully pouring 2 cups of vegetable oil down the side of the container. This is so that it settles in a separate layer on top of the egg mixture. Then starting at the bottom, we're going to pulse the immersion blender on and off and slowly move it higher and higher throughout the oil. This is going to emulsify together the oil and the egg into a thick, flavorful mayonnaise, one that looks the same but tastes worlds better than the store-bought stuff. This is good to hang out in your fridge for 1 to 2 weeks unless you're using pasteurized eggs, in which case you can enjoy its contents for up to a month. Next up, the far too often gestural veggies. Most mac salads add them seemingly only for color, but I like for mine to be positively laden with them. First up, 4 small carrots peeled and cut into small distributable pieces. Then an equal amount of celery, about 3 large ribs worth. And of course, bell pepper, often considered difficult to chop due to its unwieldy shape. But let me show you how to make it easy. First, cut off its top entirely, reach inside and rip out its heart, then cut off its base, retaining a ring for garnish. Place 1 cut down its side, press it flat, cut out its pith, and boom, you have nice, easy to chop squares of bell pepper. I'm also going to add some red, or maybe more accurately purple onion, for which I've got some more tricks. First, slice the darn thing in half, cut off the pointed tip of the onion, leaving the root system intact, and pull back the top layer of the onion but leave it attached, giving you a sort of handle to hang onto while you're chopping. Place evenly spaced lateral cuts and 1 longitudinal cut, and enjoy your fine, consistently minced onion, about 1/4 cup's worth. The next question pertains to pasta. The name mac salad is derived from macaroni, but I think that the ideal pasta shape for this medium is orecchietti. Each pasta piece is shaped like a little bowl, serving as a perfect net in which to capture crunchy veggies. We're just cooking the pasta in some salted water, business as usual, but we want to cook it about 1 minute shy of the package recommendation. Both likely and ideally you're going to make your mac salad ahead of time, and as it hangs out overnight in the fridge, it's going to absorb a lot of moisture, so ever so slightly undercooking the pasta helps prevent soggy nudes. This is also one of the very few times in history that you're going to want to rinse your pasta with cold water. This both rinses off excess starch and rapidly cools the pasta. You do not want hot pasta going into cold mayo. Alright, all of our mise is en place, which means we need to start assembling. For a pound of pasta, I've got 3/4 of a cup of our homemade mayonnaise, to which I'm going to add 1/3 of a cup of sour cream for a little extra bite, along with 2 tablespoons of either vinegar or pickle brine, 1 tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder. Fresh garlic being a little bit too harsh and spicy for something like a mac salad. Then of course we're seasoning to taste with kosher salt, freshly ground black pepper, and then the thing that elevates salad dressing of any kind, fresh herbs. I got a bunch of fresh dill and parsley here that I'm chopping up finely, about 4 tablespoons of dill and 2 tablespoons of parsley post-chop. Add that stuff to the mix, and then I'm giving this a thorough whisking to make sure that everybody's well incorporated before adding any veggies or pasta, which are headed into the bowl next. All of our nice pre-chopped veg and our cooled and rinsed pasta. Give everyone a spirited mixing and taste repeatedly for seasoning, both to make sure you get the seasoning right and because it's really, really terribly good. We give attention and care to every element and it shines through in the final product. You and your picnic will be stronger for it. But how can we introduce some variety? How about a pesto pasta salad? I'm modeling this off of Ligurian pesto, which is basically pasta, pesto, green beans, and potatoes. So I got 8 ounces of trimmed, rinsed green beans that I'm cutting into bite-sized pieces, along with 8 ounces of Yukon Gold potatoes that I'm peeling and cutting into little bits. In addition to the pasta, these guys are all getting parboiled, including, interestingly enough, the basil. 2 packed cups worth that we're going to blanch for 30 seconds until it turns an even brighter and livelier shade of green, immediately scooping out and dunking into an ice bath. Once cooled, we're laying everybody out onto a clean kitchen towel and squeezing them dry. This par cooking process process is going to prevent the basil from oxidizing in the fridge, which would turn your once beautiful pesto pasta salad to a ghastly shade of brown. With the basil dried and out of the way, it's time to do the same with the green beans, albeit for a longer period of time. These guys are getting boiled for 2.5 to 3 minutes until tender crisp, and then likewise going into an ice bath to halt their cooking. Last but not least, the taters are going in for 6 to 8 minutes until completely cooked through, spreading out on a rim baking sheet to cool. Next up, we're making our pesto, ideally prepared in a mortar and pestle, but a processor will pull through in a pinch. First, we're grating in 1.5 ounces of Parmesan cheese, adding 1 clove of roughly chopped garlic, 1 ounce of toasted and cooled pine nuts, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Process together for 15 to 30 seconds until it has the consistency of wet sand. Then we're adding the basil leaves, and as soon as we mash go on the food processor, we're carefully streaming in 5 ounces of extra virgin olive oil, stopping the machine as soon as the pesto is formed so as to not overprocess the oil, which can make the pesto bitter. And there you have it, a quick, fridge-proof pesto. Next up, assembly, and first I'm going to have a whole bunch of mini mozzarella balls, and then for our pasta I'm going with fusilli or corkscrew pasta, lots of surface area for all that delicious pesto, and a similar form factor to our green beans. But that's a bit of a stretch. Add the drained and dried green beans, the mozzarella, the cooled potatoes, and of course the green stuff. Make sure that everybody's well mixed, taste for seasoning, and there you have it, the literal representation of the difference between macaroni salad and pasta salad. A lovely cheesy, herby, mozzarella and garlic affair, pesto pasta salad. Last but not least, I want to do a sort of lemony spring vegetable affair, which I want to top with some homemade ricotta. Making ricotta is pretty simple. You just bring 4 cups of high quality whole milk, not ultra pasteurized, to a bare simmer, kill the heat, and add 1 tablespoon of lemon juice and a half teaspoon of kosher salt. Mix for even distribution and let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes, after which time you should see large curds of cheese forming. If you don't, try adding another tablespoon or 2 of lemon juice or white vinegar and letting it sit for another 5 to 10 minutes. Once you see some nice cheesy chunks forming in there, it's time to drain. We're lining a fine mesh sieve with 4 to 8 layers of cheesecloth, pouring in the admittedly unappetizing mixture and letting it sit for 45 minutes to an hour. The longer you let it sit, the drier a ricotta you'll get, as the saying goes. Now for my spring vegetables, I'm starting with some asparagus that I'm first cutting in half lengthwise and then chopping into bite-sized pieces, thinly slicing 3 ounces of radishes by hand or via mandolin, and to reduce their horseradish-like spiciness, I'm going to let them chill out in an ice bath for 10 minutes. The asparagus, meanwhile, is getting the standard blanch and shock treatment, 2 to 3 minutes in boiling water, during the last minute of which I'm going to add 4 ounces of frozen peas, shocking everybody in ice water once they're cooked. Now to assemble, I'm starting with 4.5 ounces of our homemade mayonnaise, the zest of 1 lemon, make sure you're only zesting the very outer layer of the lemon, plus we're going to squeeze in the juice of said lemon, along with 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil and all of the fresh herbs, a healthy pile of mint, dill, chives, and tarragon. It's my opinion that you can't really over-herb your pasta salad, so go crazy. Season the dressing to taste with kosher salt and freshly ground black pepper. Add the cooked, rinsed, and cooled pasta, in this case some gemelli, our cooked and cooled asparagus and peas, our ice water bathed and drained sliced radishes, and 2 ounces of toasted and cooled pine nuts for a little nutty balance. Mix it up, adjust seasonings as necessary, and there you have it, a bright, fresh, lemony, herby pasta salad with spring vegetables front and center and a big dollop of homemade ricotta. A veritable trifecta of picnicky summertime goodness, each taking less than an hour to make and only getting better with time in the fridge. Now all we need is a bright and summery cocktail, like my current favorite, the Paper Plane. First we're adding 1 ounce of the Singleton 12-year-old to a cocktail shaker over ice, followed by 1 ounce of Amaro, a medicinal digestif, 1 ounce of Aperol, a summer cocktail essential, and 1 ounce of freshly squeezed lemon juice, the juice of the common lemon. Shake with seasonal vigor, strain into a rocks glass over ice, or optionally this cocktail can be served up in a coupe glass, but either way we're garnishing with a twisted lemon peel. And there you have it, a cocktail as easy to make as its namesake, the Paper Plane. Thanks again to the Singleton Single Malt Scotch Whiskey for partnering with me on a number of episodes over the last few years. If you're intimidated by Scotch, don't be. The Singleton 12-year-old is easy to enjoy because it's light, slightly sweet, approachable, and most of all, versatile. For example, a cocktail like this Paper Plane pairs well with summer cookout favorites, but also with something rich and bright, like the pasta al limone I made on Basics. You can actually order a kit on Food 52 today to get everything you need to make a Singleton Paper Plane and 2 custom rocks glasses from the Babish cookware line. The link is in the video description. Cheers.